Hello and welcome back to my desk. Now, I've watched probably hundreds of videos about Hobonichi and specifically the Hobonichi Cousin because I've always wanted one. However, I've never been sure whether the size would be right for me. I've tried the original, the A6 smaller one before for journaling, but I've never used it as a planner, and I've ordered this one kind of against my better judgment because I promised myself I wouldn't order any more planners for 2026, but I've ordered it specifically to use as a work planner and to trial it over the next year so that I can decide whether I could actually use a Hobonichi Cousin as my everything planner for both work and home. So even though I've watched so many videos, I know there's so many videos out there on Hobonichi and especially on the Cousin and how to use it, I wanted to make one that was just going through very, very clearly exactly what it looks like when it's brand new, exactly what you get with it. So if, like me, you were in two minds about whether to buy one or try one out for the first time, now I've had chance to hold one in my hands and have a look through it. I can see really clearly why people love it and all of the different, endless, confusing ways that you could use it for your own planning needs. So I'm going to keep it simple today and just go through the very basics of what is in a Hobonichi Techo Cousin. So starting out, it is a good solid cover that you get on these, and I won't go into the details of covers. I know that most people do like to put a cover on it. But you wouldn't have to, especially if you were just using it at home. You wouldn't have to have a cover on it for it to be usable. We start with calendars for the current year, so all of 2026 is there, and then you've got the previous year 2025 and the following year 2026 in slightly smaller print there on the right hand page. We then move on to this year at a glance. So the yearly tracker here is split up into essentially 4 pages. So you've got the first 6 months of the year across this 2-page spread, so January to June, and that runs through the dates down the left hand side, and you've got room for 10. You've got 10 boxes here, so you could track 10 habits or you could write across it or whatever, but that's how much space that you've got for each one. You've also got 3 tick boxes or bullet points at the top and space at the bottom of each one here as well. And then that's exactly the same for the second half of the year here. You've got July to December. We then get straight into the monthly pages. This starts in the December of the previous year. So we start at December 2025 here. You've got a box per day to fill in and also some space around the side. And these monthly pages, the only marking on them is the shading for weekend, Saturday in grey and Sunday in a kind of pinky orange. And this runs the whole of 2026, and I believe it runs to March 2027. So you also get January, February and March of the following year. And then we jump to the weekly pages. And I think these weekly pages are probably what people think of when they think of the Hobonichi Cousin. And actually for me it's been the reason that I've never bought one prior to this, because I do usually prefer a horizontal layout. But I've seen recently a lot of people using this vertical layout as more of a to-do list, more of a list of tasks, rather than simply using the timeline down the left hand side. The timeline, if you do want to use it, runs from 5 a.m. to 4 a.m. the next morning, so it's a full 24-hour clock there. You get a small calendar on the left hand side here, and it shows you the number of the week of the year it is, so that this particular week is a 24th week of the year, and it highlights it there. You've got a column down the left hand side that you could use for lists or notes, but the majority of this page is all 7 days having a full 24-hour timeline in a column format. That runs right up to the end of the year. and then we move into the daily pages. So we get 2 blank pages here that says turning the page to a new year, and then we start into the daily pages properly. At the start of each month you get a fully blank page here. So this just says January the 1st, and then that's completely blank, it's not even squared. And then we get into the month, and that's the same for each month. So if we look at June, we get a blank page here, and then we're straight into the month. So the daily pages themselves, again, very simple, not much there in terms of a distraction. It does have, so you've got the month, the date and the day at the top. It does have a simple timeline down the left hand side with the times 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 0 and 3. So again, a 24-hour timeline, but it's condensed, just finishes here on this page. We also have 5 tick boxes or bullet points at the top that you could use for tracking something or writing notes. And then we have a very fine line that goes down the page here, which allows you to, if you wanted to, section off these pages. So you could have a column there, a column here, and something on the left hand side. You can have some notes or to-do lists at the top, and then you've got a bigger space here for journaling or whatever. But I think it's designed so that it could be for either planning or journaling. So you can structure it, or you can completely ignore the timeline, the boxes and the lines, and just write in it free form, however you want to do that. As we come to the end of the daily pages here, we do just have a few spare pages of grid notebook, and there are only 6 pages here. So if you're wondering, are there any pages that don't have anything on it at all, just for notes that are not dated, there's just 6 pages there at the back. And then it gives you a couple of other things which are obviously optional. We have a timetable, we have some graph paper, we have a list of favourites here, suggests using it for movies, books, music, restaurant, events, games. And then we have this 100 list. I've seen people use this for some quite interesting things. You can list the books you've read, films you've seen, foods you've tried, places you've been, things like that. And then you've got some memory keeping here, and just a few tips on how to use the planner page there for words or quotes or whatever that you might want to jot down. You also have this 365 days check off sheet if you want to track something, and then again there's just some links and other bits of space to put your contact details and things like that. The other thing I just wanted to mention about the very bare bones of the cousin is the colour coding down the side. I think is quite helpful. So we have the weekly pages are all a dark grey, which you can see at the edge there, and then each of the months of the daily pages are a different colour. So you can see April is a pinky colour there, May is green, June a different shade of green, but when you close the planner you can see those down the side. It's also helpful that you can add tabs at those same places if you want to easily be able to open the book at those pages. But I think most importantly, just to summarise this Hobonichi Cousin, and this is only comparing it to all of the other types of planners that I've used over the years, even though it's a big book and it's so famous in that, you know, it's so popular, there's so many, almost too much information on how to use it that it's quite easy to become overwhelmed by it. The actual book itself is very simple, because if you think about it from the beginning, it goes very, very simply. It breaking it down from yearly to monthly to weekly to daily, and that's it. So within that structure you could really do absolutely anything you wanted with it. I am looking forward to experimenting with the cousin, and I'll hopefully make a few videos about how that's working out. Like I say, I kind of wanted a year where I don't put too much pressure on myself to make the first one I own perfect, but instead to be able to play around with it, see how it works, and then decide whether this could be my actual planner and journal for the year ahead. So I'll leave that one with you, and I hope that very simple run through of the Cousin has been helpful for you.